All right, let's talk about one of the tiniest, most common words we use every single day. Is. I mean, it seems so simple, doesn't it? But what if I told you that this little word does an incredible amount of invisible work and it's actually shaping how you perceive reality itself? So how on earth does it do that? To get us started, just think about this for a second. On one hand, you've got a direct experience, right? The raw awareness of a fire. You see the flames, you feel the warmth. But on the other hand, you have a statement, a description. What actually happens in that split second when we decide to explain it? Well, that simple act of putting words to the experience, it changes everything about our relationship to what we're seeing. So here's the game plan for today. We're going to start with what is really means, then we'll look at how it creates a kind of identity and connects different ideas. From there, we'll compare two totally different ways of seeing the world, one based on properties and the other on actions. And finally, we'll wrap it all up by looking at how language itself is like a lens that colors everything we see.
Okay, let's dive into section 1. What is really means. We use this word constantly without a second thought, but its main job, its core function, is to build a little bridge between our raw awareness of something and our explanation of it.
You know, at the most basic level, you don't even need language. You just need to perceive something. You see it, you feel it, it just exists in your consciousness. We can represent this pure, unfiltered experience with a simple X. There's no explanation, no judgment, it's just the thing itself.
So what happens the moment we try to explain that X? Even if all we want to say is that the thing is, well, itself. This is where it gets really interesting, because a little split happens, creating two sides of its identity.
The second we go from just being aware of something to trying to explain it, we introduce a relationship. Now, the statement X equals X might look completely obvious, right? But grammatically, something kind of profound is going on here. We've just created a structure, a relationship between a thing and our explanation of that thing. Just look at the shift right here. On the left, X is just there. It exists in our mind. But on the right, in X equals X, that equals sign acts like a divider. It actually creates two different positions. You've got the X on the left that we're talking about, and then you've got the X on the right, which is our explanation of it.
So just to be super clear, this doesn't mean there are two different things. Nope, it's one thing, but we're now viewing it from two different perspectives that are being held together by language. That equal sign, or the word is, forces us to take a step back and look at something as an observer who's trying to explain it.
Okay, now things get even more interesting. What happens when we say something is something else? This is where we see the real power of the word is. It connects totally different concepts and builds our whole understanding of the world. When we say X is Y, we're not actually saying that X and Y are the exact same thing. What we're really doing is stating a relational equality. It means that even though X and Y are different ideas, they're tied together in this inseparable unity. Y becomes a fundamental core part of what X is.
Our example, fire is hot, is absolutely perfect for this. The idea of fire isn't the same as the idea of hot, right? But you can't have one without the other. You can't separate the heat from the fire. That heat is an essential, unbreakable part of what fire is. And the word is, well, that's what creates that powerful link in our mind. And this brings us to a really deep point about perception itself. Our language, through this structure, kind of suggests that we never experience things directly. Instead, we experience them through their effects, their qualities, their relationships. We can't really perceive fire in some abstract, total way. What we perceive is its heat, its light, its effect on the world around it. So, this way of linking ideas leads us to the first of two different frameworks for seeing reality. And it's the one that languages like English, which have the word is, use by default. It's a world built on subjects and their properties. So let's break down fire is hot. We've got our subject, fire. We've got the copula, that's just the fancy technical term for a linking word like is, and it acts like our equal sign. And then we have hot. The result? Hot becomes this static quality, a property, or sifat, that the subject fire just has. It's describing a state of being.
But what if your language didn't have a word like is? I mean, some languages just don't have a linking word like that. And this creates a completely different way of structuring reality, one that's based on actions, not on static properties.
So in this other kind of linguistic structure, the relationship between X and Y isn't about possession, where X has a property. No, instead, the relationship is understood as X performing an action. The whole thing becomes a dynamic process.
So to make that really concrete, the way you see it shifts from fire is hot, meaning it possesses the quality of heat, to something that's more like fire heats or fire does heat. The quality is transformed into the very action that the subject performs. It's a total game changer.
And here it is, the side-by-side comparison of these two worldviews. On the left, with a linking word like is, we see a world of static properties, or sifat. Fire has the quality hot, which describes a state of being. But on the right, without that linking word, we see a world of dynamic actions, or aksi. The subject, fire, performs the action heats, describing a reality that's in constant motion.
So why does any of this grammar stuff actually matter? Well, because the language we use isn't just a passive tool for describing the world. It's an active lens that is literally shaping how we see things in the first place. So, here are the big takeaways. First, the word is an active force, not just a passive connector. It organizes our reality into this framework of things and the qualities they have. And by doing that, it puts a layer of explanation between us and the world, filtering our direct experience through its very specific grammatical structure.
And that leaves us with one final big thought to chew on. If a word as simple and common as is has such a huge impact on our perception, framing our world as a collection of static things instead of dynamic actions, what other hidden structures in our language are quietly shaping our reality without us even realizing it?